assistant professor of global environmental governance at the Copernicus Institute of Sustainable Development at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. In my research, I study international environmental law as a massive system within which various actors and institutions, such as international agreements and international organizations, form complex relationships and together shape their governance outcomes. In this system, I analyze the system at various levels. For example, I look at the design, effectiveness or adaptiveness of individual international institutions, how they interact with one another, and maybe possibly form larger groups, or sometimes called regime complexes, and ultimately how the whole vast network of myriads of actors and institutions look like structurally and behave at the system level. And I think the systems view of our institutions is very valuable because the problems we are trying to address through these institutions, which are often issue specific, all interconnected. And this interconnectedness between various environmental problems is the underlying theme of my ERC project, which is called Problem Shifting Between International Environmental Treaty Regimes, Causes, Consequences, and Solutions. So to briefly explain what the project is about, perhaps surprisingly to many, given that environmental conditions are getting worse by the day, we do have more than 800 international environmental treaties that states put in place to address more or less this equal number of problems, such as climate change, marine pollution, biodiversity loss, and hazardous wastes. Yet these treaties not only do good for the environment, but also they often lead to new, sometimes even more chronic, severe environmental problems, which of course creates a burden on other treaties. So just to give you an example or two, so we have a treaty on the protection of the ozone layer, and this ozone treaty regime once incentivized the use of a chemical called hydrofluorocarbons as substitutes for ozone depleting substances. But as a result, it exacerbated climate change because hydrofluorocarbons are greenhouse gases. So another example is the climate regime actively encouraging the use of the oceans as a carbon sink, thereby accelerating ocean acidification, which of course, which is of concern to a number of other treaties on the marine environment. So this buck passing, so to say, that is going on between international environmental treaties is what I call environmental problem shifting. We don't know yet for sure, but if problem shifting is occurring on a significant scale, international environmental treaty regimes may only be sort of kicking the can down the road, so to speak, and that could be one of the reasons why the global environment continues to deteriorate despite the accumulating body of international environmental law. So in my view, environmental problem shifting is a very important issue to look at for both global sustainability as well as for advancing our understanding of how our complex global governance system works. So here comes my ERC project, Problem Shifting, which is organized in 3 parts. So to give you an idea of the structure of the project briefly. So the first part focuses on identifying and explaining the factors that contribute to problem shifting. So if you look at the literature, you can already find some possible explanations which put emphasis on different aspects, such as governance fragmentation, to what extent are the institutions fragmented, and institutional competition, are they competing with each other, are they cooperating? So on and so forth. So by drawing on the literature, the project will come up with a set of hypotheses and test them through in-depth and comparative case study analysis. And this exercise will basically help us to build a theory on when and why problem shifting occurs between treaty regimes. And then, so having understood what causes problem shifting, the second part turns to consequences of problem shifting. Here, I'm interested in both the impact on treaty level, so asking what are the impact of problem shifting on treaty regimes that shift problems to elsewhere, as well as on those that receive problems that are being shifted to them. So the impact on the treaty level, but in particular, I'm interested in learning about systemic impact. So the impact that complex array of multiple interacting problem shifting cases co-create on the entire system of environmental treaties. And this exercise is essentially about finding out really how problematic problem shifting really is. I mean, for the overall performance of environmental treaties. So on the one hand, you could imagine problem shifting as just a way in which treaties are helping each other out by sharing the burden of problem solving for mutual benefit. But on the other hand, maybe certain treaties are winning at the cost of all others, like presenting a significant coordination challenge that requires us to step in and implement harder transformative interventions. So to find out what exactly is happening here, I'll build a map of problem shifting and conduct network analysis and system dynamics analysis on this model. And that's the second part. And the third part will aim to offer solutions. So what now? I mean, so from the analysis, it may turn out that indeed something has to change at the system level if we were to ensure our global environmental efforts add up to a net positive impact. So here the project will contribute to imagining and developing a new paradigm or next paradigm of international environmental law and governance, which is sometimes referred to as Earth system law, Earth system governance that is better aligned with Earth system complexities. So that's a rather long but brief outline of my ERC project. And through the project, I really hope that we will be able to make a difference in the real world as well by having some impact on how international environmental decisions are made and evaluated. So, of course, it's not an easy decision to make to go for this kind of competitive research grant. There are multiple reasons. Yes, it's a difficult decision because you have to put a lot of time and effort and energy in putting together this proposal, knowing that the chances of getting a grant is very small. But I guess kind of the main motivation for me personally was really the passion in the topic. I mean, the desire to really delve into this issue of problem shifting, which I really believe is a significant and important issue. And yet, on the other hand, I mean, I couldn't do the research all by myself because, well, due to the sheer scale of the project, and of course, I don't have all the necessary expertise to do every single analysis. So I needed resources to attract and build a research team with the right mix of expertise. And I guess that's the key reason why I decided to take the chance and pursue this opportunity. A little bit about the process is how did I go about putting together the proposal? Well, it started with an idea. Of course, then I had to go through a long and iterative process of fine-tuning that idea so that it fits perfectly with my own research profile. So it is self-evident why I'm the right person to do this research. And also, I mean, why the department or the university I'm based at is the right place to conduct this research project. And also, of course, the project is not only about the fit between me and the host institution, but also it has to speak to and contribute to an ongoing theoretical debate in the literature. So there are a number of things that I needed to consider, and the initial idea had to be fine-tuned and revised quite a bit throughout the process. And the proposal writing itself is I would say it's like any other writing process. It was a very lonely process, especially given that it is an individual grant. So I had to write it all by myself. I mean, if it was a consortium, you know, you write together with other people. But I received a lot of support from my mentors, colleagues, the university, especially Professor Frank Biermann, who has himself won an advanced grant from the European Research Council. So it helped really a lot to see a couple of successful examples, successful proposals, and learn from good examples. And also, I went through a bunch of summaries of successful proposals from previous years to get a sense of what kind of topics are selected for funding. And of course, I also benefit from, I deliberately accepted invitations to review research proposals so that I know what the reviewer's point of view is. So I gained also from my own experience with reviewing proposals for a number of funding agencies. A bit about the challenge. There are, of course, general challenges of writing research proposal, I would say. I guess it's a very different type of writing than to journal articles or books that most of us are, of course, far more familiar with than research proposals. So I needed to really adjust to that mode of thinking, structuring, and writing. So there's a lot of I in the proposal, as you might understand. There are also, of course, ERC specific challenges. I think, well, ERC is looking for proposals or projects that, that are high risk and high gain in nature. And also, but at the same time, of course, the project has to be entirely feasible. So to strike a balance between high risk and high gain, and on the one hand, and feasibility on the other hand, has been a real struggle for me. And also similarly, I think of course, the innovativeness is what the ERC is looking for. So it has to be, project has to be innovative, groundbreaking, as they say. The project it has to aim to make not just an incremental step. I mean, it really has to go beyond the state of the art. And yet, the proposal has to be entirely accessible, understandable, and also likable, I think. And bearing in mind that the proposals are reviewed by those on the panel, I think there are about 20 of them, who are not necessarily experts on the topic that I'm interested in. They are generalists. So they also review the proposal, but on the other hand, also there are external reviewers. I mean, in my case, I got reviews from 6 people who are experts in the field. So basically, I needed to, satisfy both generalists and experts. And I think striking a good balance between these has been a real challenge for me personally. There are, of course, multiple benefits of applying for this funding, and also if you get it. And of course, the benefits are kind of obvious. I mean, the common benefits, I guess, that you are able to strengthen your own line of research. You're able to start your own research group. You gain more academic independence and increase international visibility. I mean, from which I think you come across more collaborative opportunities with excellent scholars across the world. So these are common benefits of applying for and actually getting the grant. But personally, I think I might add that, so with the project, I already begin to sense this benefits, although the project has not really been formally launched yet. The feeling that I'm able to support others with their career, and also the opportunity to guide and mentor the next generation of scholars. I think that's a great feeling that I didn't really have. I mean, before winning this grant. So that I think is an extra benefit, and yeah, being able to kind of mentor and raise and support the next generation of scholars in this field. Knowing the right people and building sort of trust with the people in Europe, I think it's a challenge. It's a big hurdle for researchers in Australia and New Zealand to apply for such a grant with the European Research Council, because you need partners. I mean, because you need an institution to host your research project. And from the perspective of the host institution, they also make investment on you, on applicants. So, so the host institution needs to know something about you, and you, of course, need to be sure that you will get the support from the host institution and also colleagues in the host institution. So I think that is a challenge. I mean, especially it could be a challenge for early career researchers applying for a starting grant, who didn't really have the opportunity to work with European colleagues. So yeah, in my view, that is a major barrier. So following on from my answer to your previous question, so I think networking is really important especially for early career researchers in Australia and New Zealand. So I would say reach out, go to conferences to the extent possible, of course, join a research community. In my case, when I was doing my PhD, I joined this global research community. I went to some of the annual conferences, and that really helped me to build my career and also eventually get this grant. So I mean, actively seek advice also. If you're not familiar with the European Research Council funding schemes, really helps to know someone who has been part of the process. I mean, it could be an applicant like myself, or it could be a reviewer. It could be a member of the panel. So like just reach out and email them, ask for advice, ask for help. I mean, I think that is really going to help a lot. Yeah, I would say also try and keep trying for applying for such a grant. I mean, the chance increases as your profile improves over the years. And the success rate, of course, it's small. I mean, it's around 10%, but depending on how you look at it, it's very low, because presumably only the really serious people apply for this grant. But on the other hand, you could say also it's reasonably high. I mean, better than job application success rates, I guess, for a tenure track assistant professorship position. I mean, from my experience, it's been around 1%, more or less. So it's far higher than 1%, and you get, that's, I think, so depending on how you look at it, it could be seen as a reasonably high success rate. So go for it. If you don't get it, I mean, don't be disappointed. Keep trying, and eventually you'll get it. I mean, at some point. And even if you don't get it, I think my experience is that the proposal writing process itself has been very helpful to organize my thinking and develop my own research line. So I wouldn't say, even if you don't get a grant, I think I wouldn't say the whole process goes down the drain. So you do get something out of the writing process. You could turn it into a publication, for example. But even if you don't, I think it was really valuable time to have to organize my own thinking and where I want to go in the future in my research. And lastly, I guess I'm really happy to help out. And so please, I'll invite anyone who wants to learn more about the European Research Council funding schemes. And just, I'm happy to share my experiences and any advice I could share. I mean, I'm more than happy. So please get in touch with me. Thank you.